Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's presentation, where we're going to be talking all about the solutions of the root causes of resistant weight loss. And I'm very excited this evening because I have two of my success coaches joining us this evening to share their experience. The way I've structured this presentation is I want to introduce the success coaches, introduce myself, and then I couldn't help but take the opportunity to also present some slides. So before we dive into the Q&A, I'm going to share one of my favorite topics, which is insulin resistance, gut health, and inflammation, and how this can impact your weight, as well as resistant weight loss, because we all know that calories in and calories out is not always the best solution for everybody. So before we get started, because this is new technology that we're using this evening, can you find the chat box for me and let me know where you are joining from? I'm really curious to see if I can see the chat and if I can see your comments. And of course, as we go, if you have any questions, post them in the chat and I'll either answer them as we go, or I'll definitely be taking the opportunity at the end to answer any of your questions. So if you could put in the chat box where you're joining from, what city or what town, or if you're comfortable with province or state, that would be great as well. All right. So who am I? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Brianne Callanan. I'm a naturopathic and functional medicine doctor, and my area of focus is resistant weight loss, hormones, digestive concerns, as well as hair loss. I'm also a mom of two, and I have two private practices in Ontario and Saskatchewan. I've written a book called The Wild and Free that's available on Amazon, the creator of the Metabolic Reset Program, which we're going to be diving more into this evening, and the founder of the Wild Side Wellness. Now, who are our success coaches? So joining us this evening, we have Allison Wills and Lisa Kuhl. Before I ask them to join, I wanted to give a brief description of who they are. Allison specializes in mindset coaching, helping women shift their thinking patterns and reduce stress so that they can feel more empowered and in control of their lives. Allison's superpower is guiding clients through the challenges of negative thoughts, self-doubt, and constant shoulds that weigh us down. And Allison has been with me and my practice since the day I started practicing. So I'm very excited for her to share her unique perspective. Lisa is a registered psychotherapist and registered holistic nutritionist with experience in working in mental health and addictions field, private practice in psychotherapy and weight loss coaching. She helps clients address weight loss, stress, and anxiety through a compassionate and holistic approach. Her practice integrates evidence-based therapy techniques with mindful nutrition strategies to help achieve sustainable, lasting change. And both Lisa and Allison are going to be joining us this evening, sharing their insights, as long as we can figure out how to get them unmuted, which I'm sure we'll be able to troubleshoot as we go. So what are we going to be covering today? I wanted to talk specifically about insulin resistance. I think this is a really important concept for everybody to understand. I'm going to be diving into some of the new research on gut health and how the bacteria in your gut can actually impact your weight, your metabolism, inflammation, as well as the ability to achieve a lean body mass or not. And we're going to be talking with mindset and stress. In about 2 weeks, for those who really want to dive into the science and what the research has to say, I'm going to be hosting another webinar where we're going to go even deeper into all of these topics, but I didn't want to take away from the really important information that the coaches have to share. So what is the reality that we're facing? The reality is the probability of achieving a normal weight with simply telling an individual to eat less and move more is 0.6%. That is a 99.4% failure rate, but yet this is still the current recommendations. So if an individual is struggling to lose weight, it's often so frustrating because you've already tried to eat less and move more, and it's simply not working. And the solution does not have to be to eat less and less and less and move more and more and more. If anything, that's going to be causing more damage to your metabolism, and there is a better way that we're going to be discussing this evening. Some statistics: 64% of adults over the age of 18 are overweight or obese. And while we cannot change our genetics, such as our family history, our age, or our ethnicity, one thing that's really important is that our genes are not our destiny, and we can absolutely influence risk factors, and we can influence our genes with diet, lifestyle, and exercise. The way I approach weight loss and weight gain in general is I see weight gain as a symptom. The same way that I would treat fatigue, anxiety, GI problems, This is a symptom, not the problem. It is a symptom that something else is ongoing underneath. We need to look at the gut health, the liver, your hormones, inflammation, insulin resistance, oxidative stress, and we need to address the underlying cause if we want sustainable weight loss. Because the current reality is, remember, the success rate of just eating less and exercising more is very, very, very low. Here are some positive success stories of the Metabolic Reset Program. Typically, we would see anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds lost in 6 weeks, but I really wanted to highlight that while many individuals join the program with a weight loss goal in mind, the main focus of the vast majority of our participants is how they feel. They want to have more energy. They want to have better skin. They want to sleep better at night. And they want to make improvements to their overall health so that they can do all the things that they are meant to do and want to do. Here are a couple more pictures of amazing transformations that we've seen. Let's dive into blood sugar. This is one of the slides that I share for every single individual. I would say every single individual that comes to see me for a one-on-one. This is the concept of insulin resistance that I want to take a couple moments to explain. The vast majority of individuals who are struggling with resistant weight loss have some degree of insulin resistance. So I think it's important to understand this. When you eat carbohydrates, whether they're healthy carbs like fruits and vegetables or unhealthy carbs like cake or cookies, those carbohydrates are going to be digested and it's going to raise your glucose or your blood sugar. This is a completely normal process that happens in everybody. After the blood sugar rises, that's going to send a signal to your pancreas to start making insulin. Insulin is shown here as the key. And the role of insulin is to help get the sugar from the bloodstream into the cells. And this is a really important process because as long as the sugars go into the cells, you're going to feel good. Your brain's going to function. You're going to have energy. You're going to be able to burn your sugars or glucose for fuel, and you're going to be satiated. What happens in insulin resistance is this lock and key becomes less efficient or it becomes jammed. So now what happens is your blood sugar rises. Your body senses that, produces the insulin, but that lock and key doesn't work as well. So the blood sugar is still high and the body's going to make more and more copies of the key or more and more insulin. Now, why does the body do this? It does it for a very specific reason. Higher amounts of insulin will send a signal to say, hey, look, the sugar's still in the bloodstream. We can't leave it here because if we leave the sugar in the bloodstream, that's going to be diagnosed as prediabetes and diabetes. It's going to create a lot of inflammation and the body's trying to protect itself. So what plan B is, when the insulin levels get high, it's to take the sugar out of the bloodstream and put it away into storage. We can store it in the liver. We can see the triglycerides go up or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And of course, we can store it as body fat. So the goal of the Metabolic Reset Program is not to say everybody needs to eliminate carbohydrates, don't need any carbohydrates. It's about how do we improve this efficiency? How do we unblock this lock and key so that now your cells are able to utilize the carbohydrates that you consume? This is another reason why individuals experience significant food cravings, and it feels like you have to use superhuman willpower just to follow a healthy nutrition plan that you know how to follow. Because if your cells are not getting the glucose, you are going to be at a cellular level starving. There's energy available in the form of stored energy. You're storing it as body fat, but your body can't access it. So the goal in resistant weight loss is to improve the efficiency of this lock and key. Here's some blood work. This is what I very commonly see for individuals. Their fasting glucose still within the normal range. Their hemoglobin A1C still within the normal range. Hemoglobin A1C tells us your average blood sugar over the last 3 months. The fasting just tells us what your blood sugar was the exact moment we did the test. So technically, this individual would probably be told by their primary care, everything's great, your labs are normal, but not enough testing is being done. When I run comprehensive blood work, I'm also looking at the insulin levels, the efficiency. How many keys are you having to produce to keep your blood sugar under control? And as you can see from this blood work, and this is something that I very commonly see, the fasting insulin is really high. Remember, insulin is a storage hormone. It says store energy. This individual was fasting. They hadn't ate. So they really shouldn't have a fasting insulin this high. If anything, your fasting insulin levels should be low. And until your fasting insulin levels come down, you will not see weight loss despite diet or exercise. So we have to fix the insulin resistance. Of course, diet and lifestyle is also key, but we have to look at this hormone piece as well. What are some signs of insulin resistance? So say you can't get tested for fasting insulin. If you're in Ontario, I can run a fasting insulin for you. If you're in the US, you can order your own blood work through Rupa Health. That's linked everywhere in my profiles. But here are some other things that would give clues to insulin resistance. A BMI greater than 25. If you're storing weight, especially the weight around the midsection, you have food cravings, you're fatigued, even seeing ups and downs in your moods or ups and downs in your energy. If you've ever done a cholesterol panel and you're seeing your triglycerides are higher than your HDL or your good cholesterol, that's strongly associated with insulin resistance as well, and something that it's very easy for you to have a look at with your own cholesterol panel. And of course, there's other signs. So seeing acne, even hot flashes can be triggered from ups and downs in your blood sugar. Irregular menstrual cycles, darkening of the skin. So there's lots of symptoms that insulin resistance can impact, because remember, your blood innervates all of your organ systems. So if there's inflammation in the blood, there's too much insulin, there's too much glucose, that's going to impact every organ system from your thyroid to your GI tract. One of the strategies that we use in the Metabolic Reset Program is intermittent fasting. And what we know about intermittent fasting is it can help improve the efficiency of that lock and key. We see improved insulin sensitivity, meaning the receptors are more sensitive to the signals that insulin produces. And that's what we want, the heightened sensitivity. I wanted to share this piece of research because intermittent fasting has to be paired with other lifestyle factors. It depends on what you're eating during your feeding window. It depends on how you're breaking your fast. And it also depends on the quality of your sleep at night. So sleep is something that we also address through the program. If you look here, this was a 12-week study, and they restricted their feeding window to 8 hours. So they had to consume all of their nutrition within 8 hours. And what they found was individuals who were good sleepers lost about 5.2% of their body weight, which is great. But if they were poor sleepers, they only lost 2%. So you can essentially double the results that you're seeing with intermittent fasting by just focusing on sleep. And this is why it's a holistic approach. We have to look at your mindset. We have to look at your sleep. We have to look at your nutrition. We have to look at your gut health. We have to look at your hormones. It's not just about eat less and move more. It's much more complex than that. One of the questions that I get asked about intermittent fasting is, does it break down muscle mass? And the answer is yes, although what we know is that individuals who are of the overweight or obese category, they're going to derive primarily their energy when they're fasting from fat mass. The leaner you are, the more risk you are at breaking down your lean muscle. There are two ways that we prevent this in the Metabolic Reset Program. We're using a lot of amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. They help to build your muscle. They help to build your neurotransmitters, your happy hormones. So that's something that I'm a really big fan of, is supplementing with amino acids every single day. And there's 2 products in the Reset Program actually that we've put amino acids in because they're just that important. Now, you can get amino acids from foods. Amino acids can come from plant-based proteins. Animal-based proteins provide more efficient amino acids, if we can say it that way. And the reason I supplement is because protecting lean muscle mass on any weight loss plan is really, really important. The last thing that you want to do is see the number on the scale go down, but you're actually losing muscle. The more muscle mass that you lose, the lower your overall basal metabolic rate is going to be. So you might lose weight initially, but if you've lowered your muscle mass in the process of doing so, it's going to be really hard to sustain that weight loss. If anything, you're going to see weight gain after. Hormones and detox. This we're going to go through high level again in 2 weeks' time. If you're interested in more of the science, we're going to be diving deeper into it. One of the things I really wanted to highlight with insulin resistance is insulin resistance causes changes to the hormones. The higher amounts of insulin you have, you can see more free testosterone, which can cause hair loss on the head, irregular menstrual cycles, hair growth on the face, or acne. Higher amounts of insulin also causes changes to your cholesterol. So we can see a rise in the LDL, we can see a rise in the triglycerides, and lowering of the beneficial HDL cholesterol. And in women, especially women with PCOS, we can start to see irregular changes. Irregular changes to the menstrual cycle can be coming from the ovary as well as the adrenal gland. So if you're having symptoms related to your hormones, it's really important that we address the root cause, which is often the insulin resistance piece. You can use bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. You can use certain types of medications to impact these hormones, but all of that is going to be a Band-Aid approach. In some cases, we want to use a Band-Aid approach to alleviate the symptoms, but it's really looking at fixing the underlying insulin resistance piece if you truly want root cause. One thing to mention is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease has a really high prevalence. So I'm seeing more and more patients that are being diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And the research is showing anywhere from 40 to 75% of the adult population in America has some degree of NAFLD. Now, this is a problem because if you are experiencing congestion in your liver, we have to remember that the liver is the organ that helps to detoxify your hormones. So if you're having hormone-related concerns, supporting liver health is really important. The liver, of course, does blood detoxification, regulation of bile and blood sugar, storage of vitamins and minerals, cholesterol management, and hormone metabolism and production. So one of the key aspects of the program that we really focus on is liver health as well. When we're looking at liver detox, there's two phases. You have phase 1 detoxification and phase 2. And you want to make sure this is an assembly line and it's moving really efficiently for weight loss and good hormones. And there's many nutrients that are needed. For phase 1, you need a variety of B vitamins, glutathione, flavonoids, and the program has been specifically designed to make sure that you're getting all of the supplements that you need to support both phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. Within the program, we use supplemental support for detoxification. So we use the detoxification support packs by Designs for Health, but we also heavily focus on getting cruciferous vegetables in the diet. Another takeaway that if you take away one thing from this presentation is to increase your cruciferous vegetables. Now, what are these? These are things like broccoli, kale, cauliflower, bok choy, Brussels sprouts. Cruciferous vegetables specifically contain sulforaphane, which is really important for your liver health, for detoxification. And in some animal studies, we're actually seeing that cruciferous vegetables can promote weight loss. So in a rat study or a mouse study, mice that were fed with sulforaphane exhibited a weight gain 15% lower than the rats without the sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is also really important for prevention of certain types of cancers, Alzheimer's, dementia. So one thing, if you can take away cruciferous vegetables, have at least one serving each and every day, preferably 2 servings. And if you've done the program or if you've been in the program before, you know that we want you to measure those to make sure that you're getting enough because they're that important, and we have them at 2 meals a day. Gut health. So what we know from mice studies, but we've also duplicated this in human studies now, and I find this so fascinating. They had 2 genetically identical rats. One was obese and one was lean. So they wanted to understand, okay, if they're genetically identical, they're eating the same diet, they're controlling for exercise, what is the key difference between these 2? And what they're finding is that there's actually a difference in the gut microbiome. And then they did further studies where they took the gut microbiome from an obese individual, transferred it into a mouse, and that mouse actually became obese. They took the gut microbiome of a lean individual, transferred it into the mouse, and the mouse stayed lean. So we do know that there are key bacteria that can influence your weight, your metabolism, your blood sugar, and levels of inflammation. What we're finding specifically by running stool tests is there's a very important bacteria in the gut called Akkermansia muciniphila. This is a super long name, but muciniphila means mucin loving. So it loves to break down the mucus layer in the gut. And this is really important for keeping a strong immune system. And I think of Akkermansia as a messy eater. So when it breaks down that mucin layer in the gut, it leaves crumbs lying around everywhere. And those crumbs are really important because that's the food source for other bacteria that can't break down the mucin layer. And what we know is low levels of akkermansia is associated with weight gain. It's associated with obesity. It's associated with inflammation, and it's associated with insulin resistance. The more and more studies that we're finding is restoring levels of akkermansia can actually promote a lean body composition. So individuals who were supplemented with bifidobacterium B420 showed a 5% reduction in their overall fat mass in 5 months' time. So it's not you take a probiotic once and everything's restored. No, it was 5 months, but this was independent of diet or lifestyle. So I think that's really important. Sleep, have your cruciferous vegetables, and make sure you're supplementing with key probiotics to ensure that you have the right gut bacteria that can help with body composition. Mindset and stress. So what we know is stress impacts every body system. It's going to impact your digestive system. It's going to impact your hormones. It's going to impact your weight. The more stress you have, the more weight gain we're going to see around the midsection. And stress, the hormone cortisol, can also break down the muscle in your extremities. So the way that we address this through the Metabolic Reset Program, and the reason why I'm so excited to have the coaches on this evening, is because there is a heavy responsibility of mindset work that goes both ways, from the participant as well as the coaches. Because sometimes when we're in the thick of it, we think, oh, I'm not that stressed, or everybody has this stress, or I have kids and I'm juggling schedules. But when you really sit down and you think, what do I do for fun? What are my hobbies? How am I interpreting my environment? There's often a lot under there that we need to unpack and address. Higher levels of cortisol promotes fat storage, yes, especially around the midsection, can interfere with your hormones, can interfere with your immune system, triggers inflammation. And also, we know that high levels of cortisol can reduce serotonin, and that's your happy hormone in your brain. So it's really, really important that we deal with the stress piece. I love this diagram. It shows how cortisol, your stress hormone, can influence your progesterone hormone. Progesterone is that calm, zen hormone that you should have before your menstrual cycle. And if you're not feeling calm, zen, loving before your menstrual cycle, it could be that your progesterone is literally being all tanked down into the hormone cortisol, your stress hormone. So it's really important when you're dealing with hormone-related concerns that we're addressing the insulin resistance, we're addressing the diet and lifestyle, we're addressing the gut bacteria, but we're also taking a really good look at this cortisol piece. Here are some tips in terms of non-negotiables. Get a journal, just write down. I think journaling for me has been a bigger game changer. There's yoga, there's meditation, there's gratitude, and of course, coaching. Sometimes you don't realize some of your thought patterns, or you don't recognize the negative thoughts that you're having until you really sit down and connect with somebody who can objectively listen to what you're saying and how you're saying it and help you navigate that. Stress is a major contributing factor. I always hear as well, doesn't intermittent fasting raise the stress hormone? If you're doing a prolonged fast, where you're doing a 3-day water fast, yes, we're going to start to see some issues with the hormone cortisol. But as soon as you break that fast, the issue does resolve. Now, if you're doing an 8-hour fast, you're doing your coaching, you're properly fueling your body when you're breaking your fats, I would argue that the stress of having the inflammation of the excess weight, the stress on the body that insulin resistance has, the stress on the body of not sleeping is far, far greater than the minor influence that we're going to see with intermittent fasting. Anything that you can do to reduce your inflammation and reduce insulin resistance is going to have a net benefit in terms of your stress response. The other thing that we use in the Metabolic Reset Program is the Relax and Focus product. This is one of my all-time favorites. It has magnesium, GABA, L-theanine. It has inositol, also for additional blood sugar support, and taurine. So if you're dealing with stress, we've got that covered within the program as well. Lack of sleep is a huge stressor. Another big takeaway is whatever you can do to fix your sleep. If it's the mindset coaching that you need, if it's, correcting the ups and downs in your blood sugar, it is so important that you're prioritizing sleep. Of course, Metabolic Reset Program includes dietary changes. One of the things that is very much unique to this program is we are looking at not only a losing phase, but a maintenance phase. So the easy part is actually losing the weight. The hard part is maintaining it. And we've built in a mandatory maintenance plan. So you go through the program, you lose your 20 to 30 pounds in the first 6 weeks, and then we teach you how to maintain it. How do we incorporate foods back in that we've removed in the losing phase to see if you can tolerate it? So definitely we're looking at an anti-inflammatory diet. We're removing food sensitivities. But I am not a big fan of telling everybody, you can't have sugar, you can't have dairy, you can't have gluten. We need to figure out what specifically is going to work for you, your sensitivities, and your lifestyle. So after the losing phase, we do reincorporate those foods back in and develop a maintenance plan for you. Now, if you have more than 20 to 30 pounds to lose, you essentially just repeat the cycle. You go through losing to maintenance. The maintenance phase is mandatory. I don't care if you have 100 pounds to lose, you have to do the maintenance phase. We need to give the body a break from the losing phase, and the more practice that you have with maintaining, the better it's going to be. Other things that we do is we avoid heating oils. So when you heat oils, they produce what we call advanced glycated end products. And this is definitely inflammatory on the body and can make insulin resistance worse. So the tips: consume your cruciferous vegetables, make sure that you sleep, try out intermittent fasting, stop heating oils, and make sure that your gut bacteria is optimal. Here's a couple photos. I am not a creative cook. I like to eat everything very basic because my kids don't like things mixed. So I have many individuals in the Reset program who are foodies. They follow the intricate recipes and they love it and they create beautiful meals, but it is definitely a very simple, easy to follow plan if you are not a cook like me. And the same way that I eat when I do the Metabolic Reset program, healthy food is for everybody. So one of the things when I was creating the program that was really important to me is this could be easily incorporated for individuals who are also cooking for other people. So in the losing phase, there might be things that we're taking out that your family likes that you could still add into their meals, but you don't have to cook separate meals for everybody. Like, healthy food is for everybody. So I hope that was helpful. I know we did that really fast, a broad level overview, but I definitely want to have enough time to bring the coaches on. So I'm going to see if I can unmute Allison, and I'm going to see if I can unmute Lisa. And it does look like that actually worked. Allison, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I can't see your video, but that might be okay. Lisa, can you hear us as well?
I can.
Okay, amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'm excited to dive into the Q&A this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Why don't I start by asking the questions, and we'll go Allison answers first and then Lisa. And I think that might be the easiest way so that we're not talking over one another.
Perfect.
Okay, so the first question is, what motivated you to become a health coach with the Metabolic Reset program?
Yeah, so if I answer that first, for me, it feels funny that you can't see me on video, but I mean, I worked with you before the Metabolic Reset, and if I think back to when it first started, I think it had started with 2 or 3 coaching calls in the 12-week or the 10-week program, and then it evolved into becoming longer coaching sessions. And so over the length of the period of time that we've been doing this program, it's evolved, and I've been there since day one, which is super fun. And so I just always want to do it. It's the impact of people's lives. It's the changes that we get to make. And, at the end of the 10 weeks, I always have a hard time saying goodbye to my clients. And many of my clients will continue coaching packages with me just because they find it so valuable.
I also find that's one of the hardest consultation calls that I have with my one-on-ones too, where I'm like, you're feeling great, your labs look great. Okay, I'll see you next year for your routine. Like, it's hard to end those calls.
Of course.
And Lisa, what about you? What motivated you to start coaching through the Reset program?
So I actually did the Metabolic Reset program, and Allison was my coach. I went into it, I had a friend that did it, and I just was in a place where I was not feeling well at all and really just wanted a good detox. Also had like a lot of trouble losing the weight, but I was like over exercising, trying to cut calories, and it wasn't working. So I decided to do it, and I felt amazing. Really learned a lot about myself and how my body responds to stress and to different foods and inflammation. And yeah, when I was done, the opportunity was there, and I was so excited to do it and share kind of what I had learned too.
I love that. And it's even more impactful when, of course, we've all gone through the Metabolic Reset Program ourselves and cooked the foods and seen the positive changes. But when you can have your own unique experience and say, okay, this is what I would do for my spices, and this is how I would cook this, like having individuals to support you who have actually done the plan, I think is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it was nice to be able to share the different tips and tricks that I found helpful doing it too, because there are times where it's a bit difficult when you have to get dinner on the table for the family. So over the time I had kind of found some strategies to help with that too.
And Allison, do you have a memorable client, without sharing personal details, of somebody who went through the program who saw success beyond weight loss, right? Like one of the things I think is really important to all of us here is weight is just a number, and I recognize individuals are coming to the program to lose weight, but we really want to focus on those non-scale victories. Do you have an example in mind?
That's a really hard question because I've coached so many people. I stopped counting during COVID at one point, and I think I was at 300 and something clients. And there's so many that have left such a lasting imprint on myself. There's many who follow me now on social media, and sign up for my newsletter, and it's just every time I see their names and faces, it just makes me smile. There is one client that I remember, um, that after week one, she yelled at me and she told me that it was, so hard and she couldn't handle it and it was awful and that she hated me. And I said, we got to push through, we got to push through. And she's like, well, I'm not giving up because I paid money for this program and I'm going to get my money's worth. And it was very funny because by week 5, we were getting ready and talking about transitioning into the maintenance phase. And she was like, but I don't want to stop. I feel so good. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk not feeling good again. And it was such a beautiful journey because she was so frustrated. She had some detox symptoms that were really hard, and that's not normal for everyone. But I loved her honesty. And I think that is something that a coach that I really offer people, is that they can be really honest with me. And that's where the lasting change happens. Because if you go off of plan and you eat something different, let's break that down and figure out why. Because we're not out to self-sabotage ourselves. So working with a coach is a fantastic way to figure out, why are you doing the things you do? And how do we change that cycle?
I love that. And Lisa, have you had any experience with symptoms that you were surprised that resolved, or a client transformation that left an impact on you?
One of the things that stands out for me the most is just typically I would have women coming to me who were super busy, like very demanding careers, busy family life, and just couldn't find the time for themselves. And I'm thinking of a few, but I know there were a lot of them with the same background. And one thing that stands out for me that happens during this program and through coaching is that they start to find a way to show up for themselves. And then that leads into them having more self-confidence and just knowing how good it can feel to take care of yourself, to show up for yourself, because they weren't doing it before. And that was like, for me, I experienced it, and then seeing my clients, because it's something we take for granted, but I think it's just, there is such a lack of self-confidence and like just living our lives to show up for everyone else. So that's probably the one thing that stood out for me, of like, it's so much more, this program is so much more than what you're eating. It's about learning to take care of yourself and prioritizing yourself and making sure you show up for those coaching calls.
And I love that you say that, because it starts with the small things, right? So you might think,
Mhm.
okay, I'm showing up for myself by providing my body with nourishing foods, and that's the first step. And then I'm showing up for myself by prioritizing, making sure that I get enough sleep. And then it's almost like a snowball effect where it starts to go into your relationships and how you're setting boundaries with others and how you're showing up for your family and what you're saying yes to. And I think starting with the physical body really has the opportunity to create shifts in the whole mental, emotional aspects of our lives as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like a simple start, but it's just getting started, and the consistency and the practicing the other behaviors as well.
And Allison, back to you. What do you think sets the Metabolic Reset Program apart from other programs that are out there specifically targeted for weight and hormones?
I mean, I think there's so many things that make it different. I think that sorry, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. The one-on-one coaching, I think, makes such a huge difference because you have that accountability partner that is there for you. And that partnership is so intricate in helping you go forward. Like, and the fact that it's a 10-week program and we focus 6 weeks on the so-and-so diet part, and then we reintegrate foods for the last 4 weeks also makes it very different because that last 4 weeks is where you learn the unique intricacies about your body. You learn what foods your body likes, knows, likes, and trusts, and you learn what foods at this time with your gut microbiome don't work with you. And maybe they will later, but right now they don't. And that can help you to keep that inflammation off. Rather than, your typical diets that you see where they're like, yes, we can help you lose weight. And then here you lose weight. And then what? That transition into healthy living. And, that's why we offer discounted coaches or discounted coaching for anybody who doesn't feel ready to go out on their own afterwards. And some people will choose that and some people won't. And I always keep the door open to all of my coaching clients. No matter when you coach with me, you are a priority to me. And they can reach out 6 months, a year later. Hey, I'm struggling. I know these foods don't agree with me, but I moved and life got crazy and I'm eating them again. And we might do a call once a month, once every 2 weeks, just to help them get back on track. And they know that that's always an option, so they don't ever let things get out of hand before they reach out.
And I completely agree. I see individuals one-on-one in my practice, and the individuals that go and do the reset program versus me just giving, okay, here's a meal plan to follow, or here's some nutrition strategies to utilize. The individuals that have the coaching by far do the best, and not just about the physical results, but their mindset is completely changed. They understand which foods support their bodies and which ones don't. So I couldn't agree with you more that it's a non-negotiable to do the coaching. I've had individuals say, like, can't I just do it myself? I'm like, no, it's like, I'm so confident that the coaching is so important for individual success that it's not an option not to do it without the coaching.
And I think if I can add on to that, I think the important piece is that the coaching isn't just about how to cook food. Like, I think some people think that we just focus on nutrition and we're just going to tell you, cook your chicken this way. Now, if you've never cooked chicken and you need help cooking chicken, of course, we're going to help you cook chicken. And that's where we can coach you based on where you're at. So if you're already eating a beautiful, healthy plan, but you're not seeing the results, we can help you through that too, because there's likely stress components or different things like that going on. And that's where we can break things down with you and help make those changes. So it's not just about what you're eating, but who are you being when you're eating? How do we maximize digestion? Those are the types of things that we're talking about in those coaching calls.
Amazing. And Lisa, for you, is there any key differences or things that you think set the Metabolic Reset Program apart for other traditional diets?
Yeah, I actually agree with Allison in what she had said. I think the one-on-one coaching makes such a big difference. I think there's so many group programs out there, but the one-on-one coaching allows you, one, the accountability, you're checking in with someone, and two, what I found super helpful in my coaching sessions is Allison was great at pointing out things I couldn't see about myself in a very kind way. But she would point out things that I was missing, right? Like I continued to think I could have dairy and maintenance when I knew I couldn't, but I just really wanted to have it. So kind of facing the realities of what was happening.
I love that I did it in a kind way.
Yes, you did. The maintenance, huge, huge part that I think a lot of programs miss. And it is, I think, just as important or more important than the losing phase, because you have to learn how to maintain it and take care of yourself going forward in a way that you can sustain your results. So that was something I really appreciated about the program, is it allowed me to kind of figure out, okay, now what do I do? And when I did coaching, it's one thing I really, really encourage my clients to continue to prioritize their coaching calls throughout maintenance, because it's easy just to fluff it off once they get there. And I think it's like such an important part of the journey. The other thing that was so different for me, and a lot of clients I've coached, I know when we first start chatting about it, was giving up the harder workouts, the more strenuous workouts, was just so baffling to me. And I know I continue to have conversations with that about new clients. Like, the idea of not working out and wanting to lose weight was just so hard to get through my head of like, but how do you burn calories then? And it turned out it was so what my body needed, is to focus on more of the restorative activities and working on my stress levels.
And that's an important piece that I didn't mention. So for anybody who's not familiar with all the details of the reset program, is a lot of individuals that come to us are over exercising. They have insulin resistance. They're not sleeping. Their hormones are all out of control. They're completely inflamed. And one of the things that we do that's a little bit different is we scale back on exercise. So if you're doing high intensity interval training and you're pushing your body for 45 minutes, an hour, and you're not seeing the results, then we need to do something different. So scaling back on that high intensity interval training or scaling back on your exercise does make a huge positive difference. And of course, it freaks everybody out. Like, well, how am I going to burn calories? Aren't I going to lose your muscle mass? We're protecting the lean muscle mass with the amino acids. You can still do activity, right? You can do Pilates, you can do yoga, you can do walking, but giving your body that break to allow the sensitivity of the insulin receptors to be better, give your nervous system a break, makes a huge difference, despite it being counterintuitive. And the only reason it's counterintuitive is because we've been fed that eat less, exercise more. You have to exercise more, you have to push yourself, you have to be uncomfortable. And that's actually not the case. All right, back to you, Allison. What are some of the common challenges that people face when trying to lose weight? And how do you help individuals overcome those obstacles?
I think the biggest problem people have is what to do after they commit to a diet, right? Like, I think that a lot of people can commit to a diet, they can follow a diet program, and they're able to do that temporarily. And so whether it's for a week or it's 2 weeks, or maybe they can get all the way to 6 weeks, but it's what do I do next? Because, anytime you're following a strict diet or you're removing food groups, you never really want to do that for a long extended period of time, because that's going to throw off your thyroid and your hormones and all those things. And so I think that is the biggest problem. And I think it's really hard for people. And I mean, I've coached naturopathic doctors and chiropractors and fitness instructors, and it's because there's so much options out there. And I think that it becomes overwhelming, and we try to do some of everything, or we jump from one to the other because we suddenly think it's not working because the scale didn't move one day. And we know the scale isn't going to move every single day. That's not how our bodies work. Our hormones fluctuate, all the things change. And so it's about, having a program that offers more than that. And I think that is why the metabolic reset, through you, is so successful.
And Lisa, what about you? Do you have some common challenges that you see individuals facing, and how do you help individuals overcome that?
I feel like a common issue is the idea of like having to be perfect, finding the perfect program. And a lot of times people do really well through losing, like Allison said, like they can follow a diet plan for a while. And then where you see that coming up a lot in the program is during maintenance, where it's like, well, how can I do this? Can I have this? Can I have that? Instead, during maintenance, we're really trying to get clients to understand how do the different foods impact their bodies, or if they're introducing workouts, like harder workouts again, how do they feel after they work out? So like what worked for me may not work for someone else. So it's like really that learning learning how to take care of their bodies, learning to notice what feels good, what doesn't feel good, learning what foods feel good in their bodies and what don't. So I think it's that idea that someone else is going to tell you the perfect plan, and taking away that internal control over it.
And I like that too, right? Because and one thing that when I was creating the program, that was really important to me is I didn't want to give individuals, you have to eat this. This is your meal plan every single day. It's like, no, here is the framework. Here's approximately what your protein should look like. And here's the importance of the cruciferous vegetables that we talked about this evening. Here's how you should structure your meal. And that way you can create any meal from any of your ingredients, because now you can intuitively eat based off of that framework. So in terms of the way I eat, I follow the Metabolic Reset Program maintenance meals, right? I always prioritize my protein. I prioritize the cruciferous vegetables. But unless I had gone through that process and really identify, okay, what does enough protein actually look like? What does enough vegetables actually look like? And going through that process, even though it might seem tedious to learn, has given me the opportunity to be able to go into the grocery store or cook any recipe and make it in terms of the framework where I know that I'm nourishing my body with enough nutrients.
And I think that's
next,
like
yeah.
helping people release that mindset of like, I need to count calories or I need to count macros. Like macro counting can be great, but it's a lot of work. And so at the end of our program, when they go into healthy living, no one's counting macros. They're checking a list off in their head or on their fingers of, did I have my protein? Did I have my cruciferous vegetables? It's far simpler. And that's why people can transition into healthy living so easily, because you can stop tracking, you can stop logging, you can, you're not, robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Like when we look at calorie counting, I did a program years ago and, I ate free soup so that I could have ice cream for dessert, right? Like that's not necessarily the best healthy choice.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, where I think the idea and the concept of intuitive eating is really important, but if you don't know what your intuitive eating should look like, or you don't know, what those meals actually should be structured with to ensure that you're getting enough of your protein, your fiber, your vegetables, your micronutrients, you have to start somewhere and have that framework before you can go into an intuitive eating schedule. All right, next question. Allison, why do you feel that so many individuals struggle with yo-yo dieting, and how does the Metabolic Reset Program create sustainability?
I mean, I think we've kind of already touched on this, and basically it's, that concept of, what you're going into at the end is you're working with a coach to make sure that that custom lifestyle program at the end is sustainable for you, and you've learned strategies to figure out what foods does your body know, like, and trust. And we teach you techniques so that, every 6 months maybe you're going to retry the foods that are on your not now list, and maybe you have some foods that you put on the shelf and you try again in a couple weeks, but we teach you those strategies so that you start to learn, hey, every time I have dairy, 24 hours later I'm having a headache. Like, that's not normal. And that again isn't the same for everyone. We wouldn't want everyone to go on a dairy-free diet, but someone who dairy is causing them headaches, that's going to change their life dramatically. And so it's that I think just, when you realize that you're not eating something because the diet didn't tell you so, and you're actually eating it because you don't like the way it makes you feel, you're more likely to do it. And so identifying that this food makes you feel like this, then why would you eat it, right? And so you start to be able to release those habits and things like that because of that very reason. But it's about, like Lisa said earlier, I gently guided her that dairy and her weren't friends, but she wanted them to be friends. And we lie to ourselves all the time. I want corn to be my friend right now. And since I had H. pylori, corn and I are not friends. And it's devastating and it's hard. And I can sympathize with my clients who go through these things. I took out eggs for 3 years and now I can eat eggs again because my gut microflora got better. And so our gut changes over time, and so will our sensitivities. But it's powerful to know how to monitor that within yourself. I have some women who, in their 60s or 70s did the program and they wish that they did it when they were younger. And, some of my program people have had their young adult daughters do it right after they did it because they're like, I want my daughter to have this knowledge in her 20s because it's so valuable. And so I coached her, and then I coached both of her daughters, and one of her daughters hadn't had a period in years and suddenly has a regular period again just from working in this 10-week program with us.
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Lisa? Do you feel that there's a reason why individuals struggle with low dieting, or what are some common things that you see with that?
I think one of the reasons why people struggle with yo-yo dieting is, again, they're looking for perfection, right? Like perfection can keep us very safe, because there's never a good time to do perfection, right? But with weight loss, I think it's boring, but consistency is going to win over time, and consistency isn't being perfect. And that's the piece in maintenance. Like even in losing, it's not the end of the world if you accidentally have something that you isn't on plan. It's fine. You move on and keep going. You're still going to have great results. And I think in maintenance, it's okay, you're going out for dinner. That's what people do. You want to have a social life. That's part of life. So how can you get through in a way where you're still eating in a way where you feel really good, are making intentional choices? So if you want dessert, have it, enjoy it. Make sure you stop when you're feeling full and move on and get back to eating the foods that make you feel really good the next day again. So I think people really struggle with the idea of it's just consistency over time.
Amazing. Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I see on blood work, I'm like, things are all getting better. You just need to do the same thing. And
Yeah.
individuals will say, like, no, I want something new. We need to change. I'm like, no, you just need to do the exact same thing that you're doing over time, and it makes a world of a difference. All right, Allison, last question, and then we'll take, if anybody has questions, please post them in the comment section. I see a couple here. I'll definitely grab onto those questions. What would you say to somebody who's on the fence about joining the program?
And I think I'd say two things. I would say I've had tons of clients who wish they did it sooner. And I'd say that we are not high pressure salespeople. You're the one that has to do the slicing and dicing. You're the one that needs to commit to it. So you've got to look at your calendar and say, I am ready to commit the next 10 weeks to me. And when you're ready for that, give us a week to get you the supplements and so forth. But I think that's key is looking, if you have a European trip planned in 2 weeks, wait till you get back from Europe, it will still be here. But it's really got to be you, and you're ready and you're committed. And you'll see the results. I tell my clients all the time, trust the process, don't overanalyze it. We've worked with hundreds of people. And it works, and it changes your life, and you'll be forever grateful.
And that's another really important point. The reset program doesn't begin on September 1st or October 1st. We don't have set dates where individuals need to join, because it's really important that it works for your schedule. You're making this commitment for you, and you can join at any point in time. So if now is not the right time, you can still definitely have a conversation one-on-one with Allison or Lisa. They have unique links where you can set up a time to consult with them to see if it would be a good fit for you, ask any additional questions that you have. But we want to make sure, and no one can just sign up for the program. Like, you need to do a quick discovery call, because we want to make sure that it's a good fit for you and it's a good fit for the coaches as well. And as much as individuals, again, come for that weight loss piece, it's so much more than the weight loss. It's all of those non-scale victories. It's showing up for the people that are important for you, showing up most importantly for yourself, feeling good, not having brain fog, having good energy that will make the biggest impacts and be the most memorable. And Lisa, same question to you. What would you say to anybody who's on the fence or undecided?
I think I remember when I was thinking about it, I think I thought about it for a couple months before I made the commitment I think I followed Brianne on social media, Allison, and a few people who I knew were doing it at the time were posting about their journey. And then I just had decided I was ready to go all in with my health and make it kind of like an overall. So one thing I would say is when I joined as a coach, that I made me feel much more comfortable is, yeah, we are not high pressure salespeople. We want it to be a good fit. And I feel like as coaches and Brianne, like we will tell you if we don't think it's a good fit or not safe for you to do or not a good time, because we really want you to feel good and have success. Um, so it is something though that I will say on the other hand, there's never going to be like a perfect time. There's always going to be holidays, things like that. So, I mean, that is definitely something we talk about in our discovery calls to have you evaluate, is this a good time? When would be a good time?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really important to make sure that it's going to be something that's not only effective for you, but also safe and looking at each individual's best interest. Was there anything else, Allison or Lisa, that you wanted to comment or share before I dive into some of the questions that are in the chat?
I was just thinking right now, I'm just throwing into a day count calculator. If somebody was to start now, let's say they got their supplements a week from now, they would be looking at a complete finish date of December 17th. So, with holidays and things like that, I personally think that now is a fantastic time to start because then you've already tried all your foods, like, and trust, how to maintain your weight. So, if the holidays are ever a factor for you where you put on extra weight, this would be a great way to overcome that because you can indulge in sweets and treats. You just need to accommodate what foods you're sensitive to and make sure that those treats don't have those things in them.
Exactly. Yeah, and you'll be in maintenance towards the holidays too, which is great. Lisa, anything else for you before I touch on a couple of the cortisol questions here?
The only thing I was thinking of is to go back to the discovery calls and having that opportunity to speak with any of us. Even if the metabolic reset program isn't right for you right now, I feel like we're all really good at giving you options and supporting, giving you ideas with your health until it is, and having a plan that way too. If it's like, okay, I want to do it after Christmas, definitely stay in touch. And then looking at things that I remember my first discovery call with Allison, she gave me like 3 or 4 tips right off the bat that had me thinking about it. And I think I signed up maybe like a month later.
Mhm.
Fantastic. No, I think you guys provide so much valuable insight on those discovery calls as well. Okay, so a couple questions. Questions about the hormone cortisol. So one thing I want to remind individuals is cortisol follows a curve. So your cortisol should be high in the morning and then it should go low before bed. Now, sometimes when you first get into the fight or flight response, we actually see the cortisol level higher. But it's almost like the analogy of the boy that cried wolf. If you're always telling your body danger, stress, produce cortisol, eventually the adrenal glands can almost put on earmuffs where they're like, yeah, we heard about that stress yesterday and nothing happened. So over time, what we can see is, yes, at the start of your stress, your cortisol is really high, but if that stress is prolonged, we can actually see lower amounts of cortisol. Now, it does depend on how low the cortisol is, whether it's really, really low below the reference range or if it's just minorly, and it depends if you did a blood test, a saliva test, or a urine test. So it's really hard to say just based off of that question, but sometimes low cortisol can be a result of chronic stress for too long. Also, the way that we regenerate cortisol in the morning is through having really good quality sleep at night. So it might be also something to consider addressing your sleep. And again, going back to the program, insulin resistance, inflammation, having all of those concerns can completely throw off your cortisol response too. There are some specific questions to specific cases, right? Having a look at anemia, iron levels, cortisol levels. I think those would be really great questions for us to explore on a one-on-one. How much does the program cost? So the program is $21.99, and that is for the remainder of this year. The prices do increase come January, but $21.99 for the rest of this year. And can you advise the program costs or ranges? There are also, like Lisa and Allison have already reiterated, there's a variety of different options for individuals to work with us. If the Metabolic Reset Program is not a good fit for you, there are other options, right? Maybe you start with coaching, maybe you do a one-on-one with me, maybe you're interested in just having blood work done and we go that route first. There's a variety of different ways that we can support you to help you reach your goals in the best means possible for you. Is there any other questions? Again, if it's specific to something of your medical history, I think it's best that we set up a one-on-one to review those key details. Things like iron, iron absorption, not to leave you kind of your question unanswered, but your iron levels, it could be lack of digestive enzymes. It could be issues with your gut bacteria that are preventing your iron levels from coming up. It could be a lack of intake in your diet. It could be heavy menstrual cycles. It really just depends on what's going on for you. And I definitely love to set up a one-on-one to review that and have a look at your blood work to give you better advice. So thank you everybody for joining. If there is any questions that you have, reach out to one of the two coaches, Allison or Lisa. You can reach out to myself. After the webinar, I'm going to be sending out a recording and a link to both of their calendars if you want to discover more and have a conversation with them. Last question here. This was actually a really good one. Do you have clients wear glucose monitors? So the program has evolved over time. I used to have individuals do continuous blood glucose monitors. Although remember from that slide of the girl eating the apple, the glucose monitor is just going to show ups and downs in your glucose. It is not going to tell you how your body's working to control your blood sugar. It's not going to tell you about the efficiency. It's not going to tell you how much insulin your body had to produce to control that blood sugar. So I don't find them as useful for individuals who don't have type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. You can definitely use a continuous blood sugar monitor throughout the program if you know how to use it and you can track it and we can see your unique response to foods. I think it definitely is valuable. What I didn't want is to create more stress for individuals. So their sensor broke or they were laying on it and they were seeing lows, and sometimes keeping it simple. I'm always about simple. I want things that are fast, they don't require a lot of mental energy, and it just flows easily. So I've created the program to be incredibly efficient and simple. If you have a glucose monitor, you want to use it, we can help support that, but I don't recommend them for everybody. All right, thank you everyone for joining. Special thank you to Allison and Lisa. I'm sorry that we couldn't get your cameras on. Next time we'll have to figure out that technology so everybody can see your beautiful faces. But I'm also going to email you out those links. If you want to set up a discovery call, feel free to do that. And thank you, Lisa and Allison, for joining and sharing all of your insights.
Thanks for having us, Brian.
Thank you.
Talk soon. Bye.